I think aside from that, I'll ask you to record an intro line and an outro
Can I
line.
mention that I won the thing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Hello, my name is Pizza. I'm a streamer, and I've recently won the NA playoffs to qualify for the Spring Championship Masters Tour, and I did so with this Control Warrior deck. So, Taunt Warrior is a slow controlling deck. It does very well to maximize removal from the board, and then it builds itself towards building these big taunts, such as Ziliax, Tortolin, Ham, and recurs them over and over again with cards like Hydration Station. With Taunt Warrior, the game plan is essentially in the early game to make sure that you can support your board by not getting run over too early. It builds into the mid game with cards like Hostile Invader, cards like Brawl, and even Chemical Spell to get an early large taunt into play. As you make it into the later stages of the game, the taunts that you've played earlier will be recurred with Hydration Station, and if you should run out of cards, Marin the Manager can refill your deck with some treasures. For the mulligan with Control Warrior, you've got quite a few options. If you should play against aggro, you want to make sure that you maximize a lot of early game removal. Cards like Bash are very good. Hostile Invader is exceptionally well against decks like Rogue because you can couple it with Safety Goggles so that you can clear their board entirely. For more mid-range or slower archetypes like Control, make sure that you're building yourself towards more card advantage. Cards like Xavius can allow you to be a little bit more flexible in the mid game so that you can start finding your taunts, and Chemical Spill can cheat out an early large taunt. Some key combinations to look out for with Control Warrior are Hostile Invader and Safety Goggles. If you don't have any armor, Safety Goggles will always act as an enabler for the Spell Burst on Hostile Invader and allow you to have some easy board clears. Shield Slam and Shield Block is a time-tested combination that's worked for Control Warrior since the very beginning of Hearthstone, and in the later stages of the game, Chemical Spill is still accessible to cheat out cards like Tortolin and Ziliax so that you can have a large minion much sooner than they're expected. With Marin, most of the time, you're just going to use Wondrous Wand so that you can gain access to cards that are in your deck. You can also use Zerog's Crown if you need something more immediate to focus on the board, and as you get into the later stages of the game, you can use Tolan's Goblet, you can fill your hand, and then you can play Golden Kobold and turn all those cards into legendaries. With Dirty Rat, it's all about timing. If you play Dirty Rat in the early game, you run the risk of having to deal with a big minion. So make sure that you have at least some kind of spot removal, whether it's Shield Slam or Brawl. As you get into the later stages of the game, you can start to pinpoint when you're going to time your Dirty Rats, because there are a lot of premium battle cries that you're going to have to focus on. Make sure that you have removal so that you don't get run over by a large minion. One of the biggest mistakes with Control Warrior, and Control Warrior in general that I see people making, is being too quick to act. You really need to push yourself to take risks and use cards in combination. Safety Goggles doesn't need to be played on turn 2, because you can play it with Hostile Invader to get more value. You can bait your opponent into thinking that they're going to kill you, and then gain a bunch of armor, and then suddenly they run out of cards and they don't have any value left. With Control, it's all about building towards this big stabilization point and running your opponent out of cards, and that's when you strike. On the latter, you're going to be especially happy to run into Rogues, Death Knights, Paladins, and Demon Hunters. They all focus pretty much on the board, and you've got tons of removal to make sure that you can stabilize things and build towards your large taunts. If you're seeing a lot of Warlock, you might want to avoid it because it's very difficult to outrace a Wheel of Death. If you're light on Dust, and don't have legendaries like Tortolin or Ziliax, there's also a Terran version of Control Warrior that utilizes Yamato Cannon and Starships so that it can build towards Gem. Thanks for watching. Make sure to tune in June 6th to 8th for the Spring Championships to watch me play.